How you been doing?
Pretty good, man. Hanging in there. Honestly, like this novel, I mean, if it was a tough read for me, not because it was like difficult or something, like a tough to understand,
Mhm.
just what it was about. It was eerily, I kept getting like a strange uncanny valley feeling,
Hmm.
like reading it. Yeah, we'll get into it for sure, but I was just like, oh man,
Oh
this
yeah, no, it was
it
yeah,
was resembling a little too much my life. Yeah.
I when I was reading that, yeah, I thought of you identifying that, especially the how protective he was of his kids and this that constant paranoia stuff. And like, yeah, I bet like being a parent is it's gonna affect you differently when you read that. But yeah, I definitely read it way differently this time than I did previously.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I finished it. I was thinking like, if I had read this when I was 22, 23, 24, something like before I had children or whatever, essentially.
Mhm.
If I had read it then, I probably would have thought it was funnier then
Yeah.
than I did reading it now. Uh yeah, and I mean we'll get into all that, but I was just like, yeah, that was definitely like there were parts where I was just like, how is this even like funny, considered funny? Like this man was tortured like his entire life. Like he was absolutely tortured. Like uh yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Heavy,
Bored.
heavy.
I am heavy, heavy, heavy. Bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No! You know,
Resources.
life with friends is boring. We must not say so.
But I guess let's get into it then, man. Yeah, we're already starting here with everything. This is another episode of Heavy Board, and we are joined again by a friend of the pod, friend in real life, Eric, we're continuing the summer of Irving here, as we said on the last episode here, and today we're here to discuss The World According to Garp by John Irving, uh, as well as the film adaptation. Welcome back, Eric. Yeah.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's summer of Irving, soon to be the Indian summer of Irving.
Yeah, so technically we have till the fall equinox, I guess. So we'll try and
Yeah,
cram.
it's summer pretty much here till yeah, through till October really.
But yeah, we have this The World According to Garp. And this, would you say this is Irving's most famous novel?
Uh until Cider House Rules because that
Yeah.
movie, you know. But yeah, I'd say like when I first saw the movie, I remember like, you know, my mom telling me like, oh yeah, John Irving's a like very famous novelist. And like I remember like this is the one that people always talked about until yeah, Cider House Rules came out.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And then Cider House Rules is next, listeners. That's what we're going to be getting into after this.
Yeah.
And that's a fat book. I got it sitting here too. That's a big fat one. Even
Mhm.
fatter than Owen Meany. Uh, but yeah, that we'll get into that. But yeah, this one is yeah, I think maybe before Cider House Rules it was. Yeah, I guess this was the one. This was his breakout novel, right? This was the
Mhm.
one that made John Irving a household name, and he even writes about it. And like we're getting into this too with the kind of the 40th anniversary edition that we have here. This was his big break, and he says this is what allowed him to like write for a living, essentially. Like all his novels before this, all his stories and whatever, he couldn't do it for a living. He was still teaching college and things like that. And then this one is the one that sold enough and then sold the movie rights and stuff so that he didn't have to, work anymore. He could write full time. which
Yeah.
is telling. I mean, the fact that this book came out in 1978. And I guess we didn't even start. We kind of talked about our history with Irving himself last time, but your history with this book, Eric. I mean, I remember you saying this was the first Irving you read. I think you said that last episode.
Yeah.
So when did you read this first? Like, because this is a reread for you and a first read for me, so that's going to make it a little interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably was like late 20s when I read it. So, yeah, it was kind of when I was in graduate school. That was my first experience with it. And back then, I just, I had seen the movie before, and I remember the movie had like more of a lighthearted comedic feel. And
Yeah.
I think when I was reading the book, I kind of just was like, oh yeah, this is a comedy about, he always has like weird, like quirky characters, which is sometimes be annoying, but like, it is there for like levity, I thought at the time. And now when I'm reading it, it's like, oh no, this is a lot darker and heavier uh, than I really thought. I have an entirely different interpretation of it now than I did back then.
That's interesting too, because as I mean, I was just telling Eric this before we even started, listeners, about like I was thinking as I finished this book, like, and I was just like, kind of reflecting on it, preparing for this episode. I was thinking, man, I would probably think this was funnier, like less dark, if I was like, yeah, in my 20s reading it for the first time, as opposed to where I am now. And yeah, there's I get the need again, the listeners know this, then Eric knows this. The next question is always how to read. Like this kind of there was a darkness to this. Like there was a looming like darkness over you when you're reading this. At least I felt that. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
got that from the book. I mean, yeah, what how did you feel when it was reading in that way? You said you
Um,
noticed something a little bit more darker, not as kind of lighthearted comedy as like a younger 20 something would read it. I mean, I don't know. What did you notice anything like that or
yeah, I mean, I guess when I first read it, it was like I thought, oh, it's about this man who is like very supportive of feminism. And that was kind of like my read throughout the whole thing. And now I just read it as, oh, here's this guy who's the victim the entire time of feminism, the world around him. And that's what made it so dark. It was like, oh, this is a tragic figure, a not like heroic or comedic. It's very Garp is very tragic.
yeah, that's what I kept getting from it too. This kind of tragedy. And yeah, I mean, I'd never read this book before. This was the first time coming to it. Again, I only knew Irving, like I said on the last episode, listeners go listen to that. I only knew Irving through reputation. I really never read his stuff. I had seen some of the big movies, Cider House Rules and all, Simon Birch and all that, but never really read it. So this was, and it's so different from Owen Meany in a way, like it's so different from that.
Mhm.
I guess it's almost 10 years removed because if this was published in 1978, Meany was first published in 89.
Mhm.
So it was almost 10 years or 11 years after that Meany came out. Because it is interesting going back the way we did this too. Like we're not doing it in order. Where like usually when I'm doing, we're not doing the complete works here, but if I'm doing like a bunch of books in a row, I usually like to go in order of how they were written or how they were put out. But with Irving here, we're doing kind of back and forth, and it is kind of interesting seeing not just the subjects that he tackles in his stories as he ages, but like it isn't this is a young man's novel. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how old Irving was when he wrote this. Probably in his like 20s or 30s.
Yeah, I imagine uh like a lot of Garp's struggles with like writing and trying to become a writer is like really reflective of Irving. So I imagine him around like Garp's like age towards the end of the novel, like early 30s.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Because some of that stuff you only know about if you're aspiring to be a writer, and some of that stuff too.
Yeah.
The frustrations and kind of yeah, I don't know. There was kind of like an endearingness to it too. And I mean, we're going to talk about this. I want to talk about this, and this will keep coming up, listeners. I mean, there's this in the 40th anniversary edition. Let's just get into the book here, dude. Yeah, like specific examples. The 40th anniversary edition, there's an introduction by Irving uh, to start the whole thing. And me personally, when I started reading this, I usually like to read introductions, particularly if they're not, just summarizing everything.
Mhm.
I mean,
Especially when it's
listeners,
by the author and not by like
exactly.
someone
Yeah.
who's like, the author's dead and they're introducing the novel and into the like how it fits into the canon.
Especially with like classic works too. Yeah, like the how it's always like some scholar that like confuses writing a book introduction with like writing scholarship.
Hmm.
So they like write like a scholarly essay to go in the front of the book instead of like an introduction to the book.
Yeah.
And it's like place and stuff. They're like making an argument. It's like, okay, well. But yeah, you and I texted about this a little bit and talked about it a little bit over dinner. Where Irving, and this is strange, and we'll get more into this once we start talking about the book too, but there's this weird we talked a little bit about Irving's politics last episode. And again, listeners know this is a podcast where I don't want to get bogged down on the author's politics. People can have whatever politics they want. But I think this is since the 40th anniversary edition came out in 2018, in the throes of Me Too, wokeness, Trump is a president for the first term. Everybody went crazy. I don't know. I was talking to Eric about this, where like when you start reading this introduction, it almost feels like it's Irving denouncing this work in a way.
Yeah.
Like he's like trying to make it something it isn't,
Hmm.
make it a part of like the current day conversation about feminism and not what the conversation was in the 19 mid 1970s when he was writing this. And I think for context listeners, how soon we forget. Everybody likes to show photos of these people online or whatever, the Betty Friedan's, the Andrea Dworkins,
Hmm.
the big iconic feminist figures of this time. That was everywhere. They were getting published in the most prestigious publications in the world, much like the woke people are now. They were pretty much uncritically accepted as scholars and things like that, as spokespeople. And I think that's what the Jetty Fields character is almost mocking that in a way.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to see his politics kind of really kind of stain this introduction that he was. I don't know. I mean, what did you think of the introduction? Do you? I know we talked a little bit when we were getting drunk, but
Yeah. I mean, he like he still has like his basic boomer politics about
right.
like like Vietnam still is like a big thing in his mind. And but he seems to have like just put like tagged on this like, oh, the book was really this pro feminist, pro LGBTQ thing, and
Pro
he like
tranny, yeah,
yes, exactly. The trans thing is very big like towards the end of his introduction. um and he frames it as like, well, no, that's what this book was always all about. And really, I mean, at the time, like of course it was just about feminism. And he has a one trans character in there who it really is like kind of almost this comical relief character.
yeah,
And the whole thing was like, for me, the way I read that character this time was like, oh, this is just another example of a man turned into a woman by feminism. Like there's just a visual representation of that, and that's why it was in there. And now he just claims that it was to give visibility to the LGBTQ community
right.
in 1978 or whatever. And he definitely like does not like Trump. He says a narcissistic vulgarian, a xenophobic blowhard, and a fascist bully. So he seems to have that need to address like, oh, Trump is so bad, and all these things that he's against, or he's for, I'm suddenly against. Um, and this was that time, 2018, where people had to signal like, oh, hey, I'm against Trump, by the way, and I love gay people, and I love black people. Black people are better than white people. Straight people are evil, white people are evil, and I mean that's what he's signaling in this introduction. And it definitely this is not the John Irving from 1978 that would have like this is definitely one that was pushed to signal how much he hates Trump and conservatives.
Yeah. It is, yeah, it's a shame that he went so political with it, but I can give a little bit of forgiveness to him because people were so overzealous at that, like they were so gung ho, like bought into the K-Fab, like,
Mhm.
and he clearly, I mean, I guess this is around when he moved like to Canada or something to avoid the looming fascism.
Yeah, he moved there, I think 2019. So
Okay, so right
2019.
before,
Yeah.
oh, jeez, jeez Louise, here we go. But I think it is like they're one of the few because I want to be fair because it's easy to be oh whatever boomer lib politics, but I think most people know this going into it, right? That Irving has these kind of politics, just like when you're going into like Stephen King stuff. These guys have not been shy over the last like 10, 15 years of being very outspoken about their politics or whatever. So you take it or leave it type thing. But one thing he does say in the introduction I thought is interesting, kind of towards the end, where he says it is a novel about being careful and about that not being enough. And one, I wonder if it's a novel about being careful, but I think that might be the most like summarizing thing about this because I kept trying to do this. I kept thinking, what is this novel about?
Mhm.
Like I kept asking myself that question reading this, and it was interesting because it was such a page turner for me. I like couldn't put it down. Like I was kind of hypnotized it. I was kind of disgusted by it in various ways, but then also like I was like, what the hell is this even about? Like I was like, well, yeah, how would you summarize this novel? So I think Irving's attempt here is just something, yeah, it is a novel about being careful and about that not being enough. Which maybe I think the novel that's almost oversimplifying the novel too, because maybe it's so complex that it's hard to point out. I don't know. I don't
He says
know.
the very last line of his introduction is it's true that the world according to Garp is a protest novel.
Yeah.
Yet when I was writing it, I never imagined I'd still be protesting 40 years later.
Hmm.
I did not view it at all as a protest novel, really.
Uh,
Well, not in protest the what he's thinking of or writing of now.
Yeah,
It's
I definitely read it as an anti-feminist novel.
yeah, yeah.
Like
He's that's the only protest.
like the feminists are literally depicted as insane. Like
Yeah.
they're literally depicted as so unhinged and like off the rails that they're like committing acts of like terrorism and assassination and like I don't know how you could say that it's like a protest novel in that regard because yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting how that was like I was like, huh. So I had actually when I first was reading this, I started reading that introduction and I was telling you this when we were getting drinks and I was because we were still in the throes of reading this when we got dinner last and Eric and I do this pretty regularly, but we'll try to at least once a month go out and get some drinks. But I remember telling you that I had to stop reading like the introduction, like after like 2 pages, and it's okay. I can't let you ruin this or like put a frame over this already. That like I've never read this before. I don't want it to be framed in these political terms. I don't want it to be framed as like oh, this is a protest novel. I just want to read it and see, like. So I had to stop reading it. So I had to go back and reread that introduction when I finished because I was like, all right, we have to talk about it because I'm so tired of the trend, and I know you feel this way too, dude. Where it's just I'm so tired of the trend of authors kind of retconning their older works to fit newer politics, kind of 21st century politics. Like this is a 20th century novel, a mid 20th century novel, really, and he's trying to pretend that it's like fits perfectly into this. And I mean, it does fit perfectly into this world. So it should mean makes it kind of a timeless classic, great American novel. But like the
Mhm.
politics were different back then. Like, he references Nixon and stuff in 1976 when he's writing this novel. I'm like, yeah, of course. And he's, oh, Nixon never should have been elected. I'm like, okay, like, fine. but like, yeah, I don't know. And then it's interesting how that comes in. Almost like he got more political as he aged in a way. Like, or maybe he just bought into the K-Fab with this kind of like, yeah, if you're a writer and you're a well-known writer like Irving, who's kind of been grandfathered into the system that the new publishing system that's much different than it was in the 70s here. Um, I don't know. I mean, you just kind of buy in because you're reading the magazines, you know the people writing on these magazines, the New Yorker, the Atlantic kind of thing. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. I mean, I guess everybody just got more political at that time, post-Trump election. And I think, especially in scholarship, especially stuff that has to do with culture, like literature, art, movies, stuff that this whole podcast is about, people just aren't admitting like how insane that time was, where people were doing this kind of bending over backwards, tying themselves into knots to make a novel from 1978, like pretend that it's like some protest novel that fits today or something. I don't know. I mean, I just got that sense from it. And obviously that's something that I've been railing against on like this entire podcast existence. Like kind of stop making things political that aren't explicitly political, even if there's some politics in it. That doesn't mean that's all that's in it. Uh, because I mean there are, right? I mean there is politics in this obviously because okay, again, those figures, Betty Friedan, Andrea Dworkin, these famous feminist figures at the time. Who was the hot one? The girl that was the Playboy bunny waitress.
Oh, Gloria Steinem.
Gloria Steinem. Yeah, I forgot blanking on her name, but yeah, so people know who we're talking about. And yeah, man, so I don't know. All right, let's get to the next one here as we could go on and on about this introduction here. But I was thinking about like Jenny Fields. Because the first character we meet isn't even Garp. We meet Jenny, his mother, in like the
Mhm.
40s, basically, during World War II. Irving likes wars. He likes to frame things around wars, and that makes sense as a novelist. That's like a technique. We can get into technique if we want with that. But we talked about it a little bit last time where you can kind of, and we've talked about it in other episodes too, listeners, where you can frame or use it as a backdrop to a lot of novels or a story because it just adds a texture to it where it's like, oh, what's going on? Oh, nothing's going on. But if you're like, oh, what's going on? World War II. Oh, okay. That like gives us a huge context to work within.
Yeah, you can really like get a better sense of the era if a war is going on for some reason. I mean, especially with Irving, it's like he was born probably in during World War II, and the big thing in his life was the Vietnam War, right? These are two
Right.
like, probably in his 20s, I guess, early 20s when the
Like
Vietnam
most
thing.
boomers. Yeah.
Yes. These are like, my birth and like the ultimate coming of age era where it was both wars. So that's a good like bookend to where he was at.
Yeah. It's, but essentially we get this picture of Jenny Fields as like a total psycho. Like
Hmm.
within like the first thing, like, okay, kind of normal. She would say she was arrested in Boston in 1942 for wounding a man in a movie theater. And I don't know. I mean, she was born into a wealthy family. So she's this wealthy woman that doesn't have to work. Uh, I guess she was the only girl of many brothers. I don't know. I mean, what do we think of Jenny Fields? What do we make of that as a character? Because there are parts where I think Jenny Fields is great, and then there are parts where I think Jenny Fields is just totally insane and like literally like abusing her son.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely insane. I mean, the first line is like she was arrested for assaulting a man in a movie theater and was a soldier. It was like this is right after Pearl Harbor was bombed, and like everyone was like really respectful towards the soldiers who were all men. And I think the guy like makes a pass at her or something, or
yeah,
she thinks the guy's making a pass. It's something so small, and she just like stabs him. I believe that she stabbed him, right?
she like slices his arteries open on his arm, so he's like
Uh,
bleeding to death.
yeah.
because she like got a
Um,
scalpel in her purse that she keeps.
yes,
Well, I
yeah,
just
for sure.
mean, and then like her nursing uniform that she wears all the time and stuff like that. I'm just, that's something an insane person does. Like, I mean,
Like,
that's not something a normal like person
yeah.
does. Yeah.
Well, so there's sort of those two sides to her, and I think that nursing side is where what kind of Garp gets his like overcautiousness from and his compassion towards people. Because like, yeah, she wears that outfit because she's proud of the fact that she takes care of people, right? And especially wounded soldiers. So she kind of has like she's kind of a contradictory character in a way. Um,
Which makes her interesting. Yeah.
yeah, because she's also at the same time has this psychotic element in her, which is like she's just totally sexless. She does not crave sex or men at all. It's not that she's a lesbian.
Right.
She just doesn't want sex, but she wants a child. So she uses a wounded soldier who can't speak or uh, like totally paralyzed pretty much, but his penis still works. So it's like she just uses that to inseminate herself with the child because she wants a child, but she doesn't want to have like any sort of sex. She just wants like
Right.
get the semen inside her. Hopefully, she'll become pregnant, and that's it. She doesn't want any passion with men. So,
Right.
and that's
Or
just
love. Like that's
yeah.
a big one. Like love. Like she doesn't want that and actually is suspicious of that. The
But she
chemical
loves Garp.
bond, the physical bond. Yeah, but she does love her son. I think that's
Yeah.
clear. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting because I think you're right. It is this kind of two sides to Jenny Fields. And even there are moments that I think the best moments are when she's wavering on her surety. Uh, 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 Especially when Garp is a teenager and stuff.
Mhm.
And she's aging, like she's presented as always so sure of herself and things. And then like there are moments when she's not. And I think those are the most beautiful moments with Jenny Fields as a character here. But yeah, very kind of that first chapter. One, it's pretty good. I mean, Irving's a great writer. That's a great idea. Very strange and weird, especially think about this in 1978. It's the throes of these like the peak, the height of this kind of feminist second wave feminist movement specifically, right? For all those figures that I already named, right? For Dan Dworkin, these other kind of figures, Steinem, all these second wave people, where feminism, I don't know. I mean, this is controversial, obviously, and whatever. That's the type of podcast we try to be honest, as honest as we can about this. I feel like second wave feminism is where it started to be blaming the opposite sex for any errors, flaws, issues, of your own. Where those figures, specifically Brady Friedan, Dworkin, Steinem, it was not so much that, oh, we need the right to vote, right, or own property. Although there was some
Mhm.
of that because it was leftovers from the first wave, right? I mean, people that know this, I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I know enough listeners, people that know more than us, feel free to put it in the comments. Here we ongoing conversation. But yeah, I feel like that was the time when it started to be blamed, and I noticed this too. Garp, she loves her son, but she's also so suspicious of him because he's a man. Like there's this. I don't know. I mean, it just I feel like that's the start of, and obviously third wave, fourth wave feminism is even worse, but I just feel like it started with this kind of actually everything is men's fault.
Mhm.
And we have nothing to do with it. And women have nothing to do with it. When I said we, I'm talking from that perspective. I don't know. I just feel like that started to be the thing, and that's what Jenny Fields kind of encapsulates. She's encapsulates kind of this, not everybody, obviously, but I think it is kind of a stand-in for these big, published in the New Yorker style feminist figures of the time. I don't
Um,
know. I mean, I feel like it has to be, right? I mean, Irving was a guy at the time living through this, and sure, maybe he was sympathetic. I mean, most people are sympathetic when you go all the way back to like what it was like pre, women's rights movements. I mean,
mhm.
it was probably terrible for him, right? We can read the history books, but it's just like Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like somebody like Jenny Fields, who is just this, okay, this woman rapes this brain dead, injured soldier in order to deprive her child of a father, to deprive herself of love, and even she even deprives her son of a name. She does not give him like a real name.
Hmm.
Uh, and that really struck me like a original. I'm like, it just it hit me to this way where it's just like, yeah, like it's so dehumanizing before this kid even has a chance here. The T.S. Garp was set up to be this figure by his mother almost.
Hmm.
Like the way she chose to go about it, to deprive him of a father, of a loving family, etc., etc. So he has to find this kind of ragtag family. And maybe you could make an argument as to why that's why he gets so obsessed with protecting his own family as he becomes an adult and has his own children because he never actually got that as a child. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. But I was just thinking like, yeah, Jenny Fields is like an insane character, but also a great character, you know?
Yeah, she is. She really does. Like, so as you were saying, in the 70s, you had like Andrea Dworkin. Her big thing was all sex is rape.
Right. Yeah.
That, that was this like sort of this ridiculous statement that she made. And while I respect her for being like probably one of the boldest and most creative out of all those feminists, and like kind of being the most real.
Yeah.
Um,
She's pretty
yeah,
raw too. Like was like one of
yeah.
those like almost a showman, like a barking carnival, like kind of
Mhm.
willing to say outrageous things.
Yeah, which I like or at least
Yeah.
appreciate.
Least
Yeah,
at
so
least made for interesting articles. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. At least she's interesting and not
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have like Judith Butler, I think, which is probably like a little later on, more of like the academic type, but she was, had the idea of this like gender fluidity. She's the one that kind of started
Yeah.
or like gender reversalism. Uh, yeah, and those are both at play in Jenny Fields' world. But yeah, I mean, she just seems so like psychotic and steadfast with this idea of she just doesn't understand sexuality. Like at one point, I think she was asking when Garp was young, like, do you have lust? And she,
Yeah.
she has this big thing about trying to understand why people lust. And I mean, to me, that's just like such a human thing to like do and understand, like lust. And it just seems like a robot
Yeah.
wouldn't, it's the one that would not understand that just basic human emotion.
Yeah, exactly. Like only somebody who's like has some type of chemical imbalance doesn't understand that. And I think even in that scene specifically, I think that's when they're in Vienna and they see the prostitutes and Garp's explaining to them. And he's like, a freshly graduated from high school teen. So he's like 18 years old,
Hmm.
they're going on this trip post graduation with his mother to see the world. And I don't know, this the way Jenny does that too, the way she like offers to buy him a prostitute, like
Hmm.
it just kind of like almost cruel. Like that's a humiliation thing. Like she was humiliating her son in that
Hmm.
circumstance, but she had no idea she was doing that. And those are the things like if you're hearing this, it's because you are listening to the free public feed of Heavy Board. To get complete, uncensored, uninterrupted, full access to this podcast, become a subscriber at patreon.com/heavyboard. That's right, Heavy Board is made possible by subscribers like you. For less than 1 cup of coffee per month, you will receive private access to uncensored, full-length episodes, Jerk Shop, heavy bonus content, subscribers-only AMA episodes, bonus extended interviews, and more. Come join the conversation today at patreon.com/heavyboard.